In the ancient kingdom of Azaba, peace reigned, with the sun kissing the earth in golden hues, and the air was always filled with the sweet scent of palm wine and earth's bounty. Emeka was the pride of Azaba, a wealthy, hard-working palm wine tapper, revered not only for his skill in tapping but also for his unmatched charisma and striking looks. He was the ideal man, a figure every woman would envy. Yet, behind his success lay an ever-growing hunger for more. Not just more wealth, but more power, more respect, and a wife who could match his towering status. Emeka was a legend, his name echoing throughout the land, carried by the winds of praise and admiration. As the wealthiest palm wine tapper, he was not only rich but also handsome, and every young maiden in the village dreamed of being his bride. He embodied success, ambition, and the ideal man in every sense. However, one fateful day, after much thought, Emeka decided it was time to find a wife. But not just any woman would do. Emeka wanted someone who could match his stature, a woman who would be the perfect companion to the powerful, respected man he had become. He envisioned a woman larger than life itself, a giantess in beauty and strength. He needed a woman who could intimidate his enemies, and perhaps even his friends, as his wealth and status had already done. One evening, as the moon hung high in the sky, Emeka sat on the steps of his grand hut, watching the village hustle and bustle below. A thought crossed his mind, a thought that would change his life forever. What kind of woman could I marry to truly embody my greatness? His eyes searched the kingdom, and the answer came to him like a thunderclap. A woman strong enough to stand by his side, to intimidate his enemies, to complement his power. He needed a woman of great size and beauty, someone who could be both his partner and his weapon. He sent a message through the town crier, the voice of Azaba, announcing that he, Motsi Emeka, the great palm wine tapper, was seeking a bride. The town crier's bell rang as he moved from village to village, shouting, "Hear ye! Hear ye! Motsi Emeka seeks a bride. Any young maiden between the ages of 16 and 20, come forth to his house on Monday. Tall, short, beautiful, or otherwise, if you are a woman within this age bracket, you must come. Palm wine and bush meat will be served." The call was impossible to ignore, and soon, the village was abuzz. Young women from every corner gathered at Emeka's house, eagerly awaiting their turn to be chosen. Emeka, sitting at the head of his courtyard, watched the procession of young maidens. He observed each of them, judging them silently, until his gaze fell upon Ogechi. Ogechi was a vision, a towering beauty with long flowing hair and curves that could rival the finest sculptures. She was exactly what Emeka had imagined, tall, big, and impossibly beautiful. Emeka smiled, for he knew that she was the one. The wedding was arranged, and the entire kingdom rejoiced at the union of their most powerful man with his equally commanding bride. The first month of marriage was blissful. Emeka, enamored with his new wife, pampered her in the traditional manner, making sure that every need was met. The village watched in awe, admiring the couple, though some whispered in hushed tones, questioning Emeka's decision to marry a woman so much larger than him. There were even jokes about how she might one day overpower him. But Emeka brushed off these concerns, believing that his choice was a mark of his greatness. But after the honeymoon phase ended, things began to change. Emeka resumed his daily duties of tapping palm wine, and as he returned each day, he began to notice peculiarities about Ogechi. She didn't cook, she didn't clean, and the house was always in disarray. Confused and frustrated, Emeka decided to confront her. "Ogechi," he said one evening, his voice calm but firm, "why do you not help around the house? Why do you leave everything for me to do?" Ogechi, reclining on her mat, looked at him with disinterest. "I am your wife, Emeka. You married me to be your queen, not your servant. I don't dirty myself with chores. You take care of it." The words stung Emeka deeply, like a hot dagger through his heart. His pride, his self-image, his dream of a powerful wife, all shattered in that moment. For a man who had always been in control, this was a blow he could not bear. He kept quiet, the anger simmering inside him. But he had a plan. If Ogechi wanted to be treated like a queen, then he would treat her as such, but only after she earned it. He decided to stop giving her food and care, hoping that her pride would force her to change. However, Emeka had underestimated Ogechi. She was not the docile woman he had thought her to be. She was a lioness, and the longer Emeka's punishment dragged on, the more her temper flared. One day, when Emeka returned home, expecting to find his wife meek and hungry, he was met with an unimaginable sight. Ogechi walked up to him, her eyes flashing with fury, and before he could react, she hoisted him onto her shoulder and began spinning him around like a child. "Do you want me to finish you here?" she snarled, her voice full of venom. Emeka's heart raced with terror. "Please, Ogechi. I'll give you whatever you want, just spare me. Please." The villagers, hearing the commotion, gathered outside, witnessing the shocking scene. They could hardly believe their eyes. The once mighty Emeka, reduced to begging for mercy from his wife. Whispers of disbelief spread like wildfire. See. Emeka thought his wealth could protect him. Now look at him. A giant woman has him at her mercy. Ogechi finally dropped him to the ground, her disdain for him clear. "I warned you, Emeka," she said, turning on her heel. "Now you will see what happens when you think you can control me." From that day forward, Emeka's life became a living nightmare. Each morning, Ogechi demanded that he clean the house, wash the dishes, and complete every household chore before he could leave for his palm wine tapping. When he returned, the demands only grew. She demanded massages, food, and her bath to be prepared, all while sitting idly like a queen on her throne. The villagers began to talk, their concerns growing. Some whispered that Emeka had brought this upon himself by choosing such a large woman as his bride. Others said he had been blinded by his wealth and power, thinking that his riches could make him untouchable. But the truth was that Emeka had never imagined his marriage would become a battlefield. One day, enough was enough. Emeka could no longer bear the torment. He decided to take action and summon the elders of the village for a meeting. They gathered in the center of the village, and Emeka, humbled and broken, explained everything to them. "This woman, my wife, is treating me like a servant. I am the man of the house, but she disrespects me daily. What am I supposed to do?" he cried, his voice filled with frustration. The elders listened intently, their faces grave. But just as they were about to deliberate, Ogechi appeared at the entrance of the meeting hall, holding a large metal can in her hand. Without saying a word, she strode into the gathering and began swinging the can, chasing everyone out of the hall. "This is none of your business," she yelled. "No one will tell me how to run my house." The villagers stood frozen, their hearts pounding in their chests. What had once been a marriage of grandeur and respect had now descended into chaos and fear. Ogechi had become a tyrant, and Emeka, the once untouchable palm wine tapper, was now a prisoner in his own home. But Emeka was not a man to be defeated so easily. With the villagers watching and his heart swelling with determination, he vowed to fight back, not with violence, but with wisdom. He would reclaim his dignity. He would reclaim his life. The true battle had just begun. The days that followed were filled with tension. Emeka, once a proud and powerful figure in Azaba, now found himself a mere shadow of his former self, living in fear under Ogechi's oppressive rule. The respect he had once commanded was gone, replaced by whispers and pity. But Emeka, though broken, was not without resolve. The village elders, having seen Ogechi's tyranny firsthand, were reluctant to intervene further. They had heard Emeka's pleas, but none dared challenge the force that Ogechi had become. The woman who had once been a symbol of grace and beauty had transformed into a domineering force, ruling the household with an iron fist. Emeka, however, could not sit idly by. The fire of pride still burned in his heart, and with it, a deep sense of injustice. He knew he had to reclaim his dignity, but how? One evening, as the sun began to set and the golden hues of the sky bathed the village in warmth, Emeka sat alone by the river, contemplating his next move. The sound of the flowing water was coming, yet it did little to ease his troubled mind. His thoughts raced, searching for a solution, when an idea suddenly struck him, a path he had never considered. I have the wealth. I have the land, he muttered to himself, the words barely audible over the sound of the river. But what good is any of it if I have no power in my own house? What good is my success if I cannot even rule my own life? A plan began to form in his mind, a plan that would require him to humble himself in ways he never thought possible, but it was the only way he could regain control of his life. The next morning, Emeka set out to find the village elder who had always been known for his wisdom and deep understanding of human nature, Elder Uzo. Uzo lived on the outskirts of the village, near the sacred forest that had long been a place of contemplation and guidance for those seeking answers. Emeka, in his desperation, journeyed through the thick trees, seeking the elder's counsel. When he arrived at Uzo's humble hut, the elder greeted him with a knowing smile. He had seen Emeka's transformation, the mighty palm wine tapper brought low by his own pride and his wife's overpowering presence. Emeka, Uzo said softly, gesturing for him to sit. I have been waiting for you. I sense the turmoil within you. What weighs so heavily on your heart? Emeka, his voice trembling with frustration, explained everything, his grand marriage to Ogechi, his dreams of power, and how it had all unraveled before his eyes. He told Uzo of the fear and disrespect he now endured, and how he longed to reclaim his dignity. Uzo listened intently, his eyes sharp and full of understanding. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice calm yet filled with authority. Power, Emeka, is not just about strength or wealth. It is about respect, trust, and understanding. You sought a partner to match your stature, but in doing so, you forgot that true power is not built on fear. You must regain the power of your own. Emeka listened closely as Uzo spoke of the ancient ways of balancing strength with humility, of commanding respect through wisdom and kindness, rather than dominance. He spoke of the need for communication, for the strength to listen as well as to speak. And most importantly, Uzo spoke of the need for Emeka to understand the heart of Ogechi, not as a subject to be ruled, but as an equal partner to be respected. With a newfound sense of purpose, Emeka returned to the village, determined to put Uzo's advice into practice. He knew it would not be easy, but he was willing to try. That evening, he sat down with Ogechi in their home, a place that had once been filled with love and promises, but now felt cold and foreign. Ogechi, he began, his voice steady but soft, I see now that I was wrong. I sought to rule over you, to control you. I wanted a partner who would add to my power, but in doing so, I forgot the true meaning of partnership. Ogechi, who had been silent, her face a mixture of defiance and curiosity, met his gaze. And what is this true meaning you speak of? She asked, her voice low but sharp. I want to change. I want us to be equal. I want to listen to you, understand you, and work together to build something greater than both of us, Emeka said, his voice filled with sincerity. For a moment, there was silence. Ogechi looked at him, her eyes searching his face, as if weighing his words carefully. Then, finally, she spoke, her voice no longer laced with venom, but with a hint of something softer. You think it will be that easy, Emeka, she said, a wry smile tugging at her lips. You have a lot to prove. Emeka nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He knew that trust had been broken, and it would take time to rebuild. But he was willing to put in the work. Slowly, day by day, he began to change his approach. Instead of forcing Ogechi into a mold, he sought to understand her, to meet her needs as much as his own. It was a long and difficult process. There were days when Emeka faltered, days when his pride threatened to rise again, but with each passing day, he grew stronger, not through his physical strength, but through his humility and wisdom. As the months passed, the villagers began to notice the change. Whispers of admiration began to replace the previous gossip. Emeka was no longer the man who sought control through fear, but the man who sought harmony through respect. And in time, Ogechi, too, began to change. She softened, recognizing the effort Emeka was putting into their relationship, and slowly, she too began to listen, to meet him halfway. But as Emeka's life began to regain balance, a new challenge arose, one that threatened to unravel everything he had worked for. An old rival, jealous of Emeka's newfound strength and unity with Ogechi, began to plot against him, seeking to destroy everything Emeka had built. The battle for Emeka's soul, it seemed, was far from over.